Hello, hello, welcome. Welcome back. Welcome to anyone who's new, and welcome back to everyone who returns. Week to week, another interesting episode today. We are talking about board games. And those are not the games where you get bored,
No, we're just talking about good old fashioned non digital games that you
because this
play
channel isn't just video games, it is all games.
all games.
So, I can honestly say board games and me go back to when I was just a kid.
Yeah.
Monopoly,
Best game ever.
sorry.
What are you sorry about?
Um
It is the best game ever. I'm just kidding. I know you're talking about the game. Sorry. Not
a
aggravation.
game that's a
Parcheesi.
game that's technically both
Checkers.
card both card and board, Trivial Pursuit.
Trivial Pursuit. Yeah. And there's ones like Cranium and Pictionary. Even
Like,
checkers and chess. Connect Four. Even
yep.
Even card games too. We could talk about card games in this game. Skippo, Phase 10, just poker, blackjack, those kind of games too.
We might cover card games here, or we might do a whole episode on card games.
Rummy, Gin, Magic the Gathering,
Bridge.
Pokemon technically started as a card game.
Yep. So, like I said, we could do a whole episode on the card game world.
Dungeons and Dragons is a TTRPG, but there's cards and dice and all that kind of stuff and imagination.
That could also be its own episode. So we'll see where the discussion goes today.
Yeah.
What major games did you play as a kid that you really enjoyed?
Monopoly.
Probably the best game and the worst game all at once.
It's the best game because I win.
Okay.
I'm good at Monopoly.
Break down the core mechanics of Monopoly, like what makes it the good game that it is.
Well, since dice are involved, there is luck is a factor into it, but it also comes down to strategy and decision making on when to buy properties, when to not, what kind of trades you will make with people, because trades are allowed in Monopoly, and
Indeed, they are.
some people are not very smart when it comes to trades. They will trade something just to get a set when in reality you wound up giving like someone like a whole row or a corner of everything there's many strategies to win. Of course, the most famous one is get boardwalk and park place,
Yep.
which that does help, but it doesn't guarantee you victory. So there's
No.
there's been times I've lost when I had Boardwalk and Park Place, and the only thing my brother had was, well, the only quote unquote set, not the only thing, but was the four railroads. My brother has won that game multiple times with just the four railroads being his main source of income. It all, like I said, like part of it depends on the luck of the dice and how people roll
Indeed,
and
it
stuff.
does.
What is your favorite game from childhood? Or even now as an
Honestly,
adult?
yeah, I don't play as many games as an adult as far as board games go, which is really depressing because I love board games, but I just don't have as many people to play with anymore. Monopoly is still a huge favorite.
Yes.
Um,
We will have to play Monopoly someday so I can beat you.
when I was a kid, as you might know if you follow our channel, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. And one of the games I got as a kid was the Star Wars version of Battleship. It was a full blown electronic, but physical, like it had
Right, right.
lights and sounds.
I know what you mean
So,
by the electronic battleship. It wasn't the video game. It was the board had batteries and
yeah. Yep.
all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I've
For
had
for
a
our
couple.
viewers who don't know, that used to be a thing. I don't know if it still is.
I'm sure there's still versions of it out nowadays. Yeah.
But
Speaking of Star Wars,
yeah,
I had Star
that
Wars
was fun.
Monopoly. I still do in my closet.
I
Episode
so did
one,
I.
which is everybody's favorite Star Wars movie.
Oh, I actually had the original trilogy version.
Yeah, I mean, I used to have a whole Monopoly collection. I had so many different versions of Monopoly.
Likewise.
Unfortunately, I did lose them in a storage unit that we could no longer afford to pay the bill on, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I had Lord of the Rings Monopoly. I had Transformers, Power Rangers, freaking regular Monopoly, Championship Edition Monopoly. Like you name it, I had. I even had Create Your Own Monopoly, where you could create your own little properties and stuff. Like It was great fun.
I don't know what ever happened to it, but at one point my family actually owned, it wasn't Monopoly by brand name, but it was like an off-brand Monopoly,
Yeah, there's plenty of those.
based around San Francisco, and it was really, really interesting, really different. Like it was Monopoly, but it wasn't like the rules. They had additional rules, and they changed how properties worked. It was really interesting, and I've tried to find it again over the years, but I've never been able to find it again.
Yeah, it's the whole story behind Monopoly itself is kind of funny. It was originally developed to show the evils of corporations and all this kind of stuff, and it was bought out by a corporation, Parker Brothers, and they turned it into this great freaking game of, being an evil real estate empire kind of thing. It's kind of funny, like the way it's played now is like kind of a spit in the face of what the original designer of the game intended.
Oh yeah.
It was,
Like it was supposed to be, it was supposed to be this whole different game, and
yeah, like it was supposed to be a criticism of not necessarily corporations, but landlords and shit, and rent prices and all this kind of stuff and everything, but all that kind of stuff. And yeah, great fun. But I love what we have today. It's one of my favorite board games to play. I don't get to play it that often because people don't want to play with me either, which is very sad. Like me and my brother will still play every once in a while, and my best friend, he likes to play it, and like we go over to his house every Friday night and have a game night, but we can't ever play Monopoly there because his wife absolutely hates it, so it sucks. She's mean, won't let us play Monopoly. I'm just kidding. She's a great person. I love her to death, but she just doesn't like Monopoly, so we play all kinds of other fun stuff sometimes.
wow.
We always play some kind of game, whether it's Trivial Pursuit, not Monopoly, but some board games, some, like, we generally do the more current type of, like, the party games kind of a thing. But,
Yep.
yeah, every once in a while we'll bust out an old school board game or something, which is really fun to play.
Oh wow. Okay. Side note, I was just quickly looking online real quick to see if I could find that version of Monopoly that I was just talking about. That was a San Francisco edition type thing. I actually just found someone selling it on eBay. Like no joke.
A worldwide garage sale, man.
So yeah, so it is still out there somewhere. And just one of these days, I'm gonna have to find it again and buy it. So
Ching ching, you need money.
come support the channel, everyone. Come support the channel. Maybe we'll get a game day or something live for us.
That would be fun. Do a little live stream of like Jackbox or something with our audience members.
Or us playing board games.
Yeah, that's why I said Jackbox or something. Didn't necessarily mean it has to be a thingamabob.
So another game that I've really enjoyed is Clue.
Clue's a great one. So was Life. I used to play Life a lot.
I never played Life.
That's because you don't have one. But
Well, you're not too far off there.
I'm just kidding, my friend.
So
Yeah, but speaking of games we used to play as kids, like me and the friend I'm actually talking about, how we still go to his house on game night. Like as children, we used to play Monopoly over the phone.
oh my god.
When we couldn't get together. So like that's how much Monopoly has been a part of my life. Like
How do you play it over the phone? Like walk us through that.
oh well, before we had video chats, so you just had to trust what the other person said that they rolled and kind of stuff. Like we each had a board at our houses, and we always had, like it was me and my brother and him and his brother would play. So we at least had someone who supposedly would call out the other person if they lied. But like, say it was my turn, I rolled. We both had the board set up in our respective houses. So I said, all right, I got a 6, and I'd move my thing. And then they, on their side, would move the token of my character to whatever spot, and then just like we would just talk like, okay, I landed on this property, I'm buying this property. So they would pull it out of their pile and set it in like a placeholder spot for my person and vice versa, whenever it was their turn. Like, yeah. Other than that, you play it just like you do real life. You would just talk over the phone of what we were doing.
Oh wow. That's dedication. That is absolute dedication.
We were broke kids in the 90s. We couldn't afford all this fancy newest technology of video games and stuff.
That's fair as well.
No, it's not fair. I wanted all the nice stuff, I just couldn't afford it. It was not fair at all. Just kidding. But yeah, man, if you ever come out this way, you'll have to come on a Friday night.
Oh heck yeah.
bring you over to my friend's house and we could play some games and eat some food and all that kind of fun stuff. So one of these days.
What's a other than Monopoly? What was another huge game that had an impact on you?
Scrabble.
Ooh,
I love
I was not.
I love Scrabble and Boggle, and my brother refuses to play those games with me because I kick his ass every time.
Yeah, growing up for multiple reasons, I was not into Scrabble, but I appreciate those who did get into it and could do it really well.
Yeah, like when my brother and I play Scrabble, it's not that I make better words than him. I know how to play the board to get the more points better than he does, and
Oh,
that's why I beat him. 'Cause, like I know how to set it up. Like okay, if I put this word and he plays something there, I can then and 9 times out of 10 he will play to set me up so I can get the triple word bonus and all this kind of stuff. Like if you
okay, so
look at
can
the
I
board,
safely assume, based on that, when it came to the digital game Words with Friends, you kicked his butt?
yeah, he doesn't play Words with Friends with me either. And like I have Boggle on my Xbox, and so does he, because we bought the Hasbro game pack kind of thing. We both have it, so we can play some games together. But he won't play Boggle with me on that anymore. And it's again, like I said, it's not that I get better words than him, because if a lot of times we'll get some of the same words, and when you get the same word, it cancels it out. It's just I'm faster at recognizing and picking up the words than he is than he are. Blah blah blah. See, I am good English, but
Brilliant.
it's like I don't beat him in that game by getting the big words or anything. I'm good at finding all the small, like I think you need at least 3 letter words in there, and I'm good at getting them and mixing them. And like a lot of times, like okay, we'll both get tar, but then he doesn't think to get rat. Also, like you take the word and flip it around, it's another word kind of a thing. So like,
Right.
and like when we're going over the word list at the end, he's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I missed all these very easy words because I got it going one way but not the other," kind of a thing. And
Oh,
then
that
like,
sounds epic on your part.
and so like for me, I'm like, yeah, it's because I love playing word games. Like I play them on my phone all the time too. So like for me, like word games are my jam nowadays when I'm playing like on my phone or whatever. That's mostly what I play is word games, like
Yeah, another game that
stuff like
I
that.
really
So
enjoyed growing up was chess.
chess, chess is good. I'm not the greatest chess
Yep.
player, but I'm not the worst either. But I mean,
It's
I,
one of those games
obviously,
that
if I went against a professional, they would kick my ass in like 3 moves probably. But
4 moves minimum. That much I do know.
okay, I meant 3 moves
No,
each.
there is a move in chess where you win in 4 moves.
Yeah, I know. I've lost to that move before, and I've trapped people with it before too.
Yep, same.
But like anyone who's, like I said, a legitimate good chess player is not going to fall for that trap because they know of it.
Exactly.
So,
But again, chess was just one of those games that it really made me stop and think about things.
oh yeah, chess is a thinking man's game, or sorry, a thinking person's game.
Yep.
It
And
really
it was just
requires some thinking, strategy, planning.
what I love is when I'd always play with my dad because that he's the one who introduced it to me. And
Hmm.
I still remember this one game where he had this one strategy going and he forgot he left his queen exposed, and needless to say he was without a queen very quickly.
He was queenless, huh?
Yeah. Like that sort of stuff did not happen very often. Like he and I don't play anymore because just time and
Right.
everything else life has for us. So,
Uh,
but it was something that when we had like a day, we'd spend a couple hours playing chess.
nice. Yeah, the
I
only
think I
game.
only beat him a couple times, but hey,
Yeah, my dad was never really big into game playing, so never played too many games with him. About the only time we play games anymore is like I just went and saw him for the weekend last weekend, and we play a game called 99 as a family. But it's a card game, and it's if you know it, it's a great fun game. I'm not going to go into the details on how to play it on this podcast or whatever, but it's a counting game, and my family always plays for money. So
oh,
I mean, you start, I mean, you play the game and you have 3 chips, and once you're out of your chips, you're out of the game, and it goes down to the last person standing gets all the things. And the way my family plays, it's $1 a chip. So you have to pay $3 to play the game to go into the pot, and whoever wins it all walks away with all of the money. So it's not
Oh,
like we're
not bad.
not like we're spending like a bajillion dollars in gambling with each other. It's a little local family. Like if you can't afford $3 to play the game, someone usually will spot you also. So
Fair enough.
and then if you win, you just give that person back the $3 they paid for you to play. So yeah, it's a great game. It's fun, but it's a counting game. So
Yeah,
you have to be quick when you're counting. And then there's certain cards that have they're called funny cards, certain rules of what they do. But
another game that my dad taught me. There's two ways to play it, mind you, and he only knew one way. It's a game called Go.
Go.
It's a Japanese game, and in Japanese, Go means the number 5. And the version he taught me is it's a grid based game with stones, black and white stones.
Mm-hmm.
And you're trying to get 5 in a row, whether it's diagonal, straight across, whatever, as long as it's 5 in a sequential row. So sort of like Connect 4, but a bit more complicated with a lot more spaces. And that game is really interesting.
I was going to say that sounds like Othello. Is I think the American version of it.
Possibly.
You have black and white stones, and I think you need to get 5 in a row to win, and you place them on the board. It's in a little grid. Sounds a lot like what you're talking about.
Yep.
Also, I guess called Reversey, according to the internet that I'm looking at right now.
Hmm.
Othello is a variant with a fixed initial setup on the board. Okay. But yeah, that was a game I used to play when I was a kid.
Cool. And then we cannot forget, when waiting at your restaurant as a kid for your server to bring your food out, playing tic-tac-toe for the fun of it.
Oh yeah, play tic-tac-toe all the time.
Like, that's an iconic game. I remember at one point, back in the day when mobile games were becoming more advanced, I found a publisher who had a 3D version of tic-tac-toe. And it was basically a cube based where you could do it in 3D space. So you had like 9 different quadrants, if you will, to work with.
If it was a cube, it should only be 6.
Or you take the cube, you divide it into 3 vertically and then 3 horizontally. So yeah, you were playing in 3D space. It was really weird.
Really weird.
But really fun at the same time.
Yeah.
It took the game and it turned it upside down.
Yeah, but as long as both players know what they're doing, that game should always end in a tie.
Very true.
Regular tic-tac-toe. I'm not talking about your 3-dimensional cubized version anyway.
Or even then, if you know what you're doing, it should end in a draw because the same basic principles still apply.
Yeah, I imagine as much, but I don't know that game, so I can't speak of it with factual basis. So that's why I said the regular version, at least,
Yep.
should always be a cat's game. That's why, as an adult, it's not as fun anymore. Unless you're playing with a kid and you kind of got to destroy them each time. I'm just kidding.
Or let them win.
Yes. Usually that's what you do when it's a little kid. You let them win. But sometimes, every once in a while, you set them up for the basic trap that everyone falls for the first couple of times. And then once they learn it, they're like, I know that trap. And it's always fun when people try to pull it on you, or like a younger kid or something will try to pull it on me. I'm like, I know that trap. I'm not going to fall for it. I know how to stop that trap. Like we were talking about that other move in chess.
Yep.
If you know it and you don't fall into it, you're not gonna.
By chance, also when you were growing up, did you ever play the game Stratego?
Oh God, I love Stratego.
Yeah, that was another one that I learned. I think I was in like the 5th grade when I first learned that game.
Nice, yeah.
That was fun.
I mean, we had that one. Me and my brother, or me and my sister, would play it a lot. We would also play Risk a lot. You ever play Risk?
Oh, jeez, the game that never ends.
Oh, it ends all the time when you conquer the world.
Yeah, but after how long?
We don't play the quick version rules. It only takes an hour or 2. I mean, I've had Monopoly games last longer than I've had games of Risk last.
Really?
Yes. Well, when you play Monopoly with a lot of people, it can last a long time.
Oh, man. Yeah, Monopoly is one of those games that, depending on how many people you have, you're
And
there all day.
depending on the skill of the people, because like I said, yeah, there is some luck to Monopoly, but there's also a lot of skill and stuff. So like, depending on the skill of the other
Indeed.
players, like if they know what they're doing, that game can last quite a long time. Oh, and by the way, we don't play where you get a bunch of money by landing on free parking and all that kind of crap. That's for kids.
Okay, so how do you deal with free parking?
It's just a free space. That's it. You land there, you're free.
So when you deal with luxury tax and income tax and all that sort of stuff,
Goes to the
where
bank.
does the money go?
Goes to the bank where it's supposed to go.
Wow.
Wow, that's the actual. Yeah, we play by the actual rules of Monopoly, not the house rules that everyone comes up with. I mean, yes, I'll admit, when I was a kid, I used to play it that way too, with the free parking and taxes and all that kind of stuff goes into the middle, and whoever gets it when they land on free
I thought
parking.
that
But
was part of the actual rules of the game.
nope, it's a very common house rule that everyone plays. But if you actually read the instructions, it's like, no, all those payments go to the bank where they belong, and free parking is just a free space where you don't have to worry about landing on it. And there's no punishment, no reward, no nothing. It's free
Oh,
parking, not you get paid to park here. And
Interesting.
we play the auction rule too, which is again in the actual rules of Monopoly.
Yep.
Some people like that rule, some people don't. But yeah, if you land on a property and you can't afford it, it goes up for auction. And yeah, there's been plenty of times I've won that game by like my brother landing on Boardwalk or someone landing on Boardwalk first. They didn't have enough money to pay for it, but I had more money than they did. So like if he only has like $98, I'm able to buy Boardwalk for $99 instead of the full 350 or whatever it is to buy it.
Right.
Like it's a great way to play the game. Some people hate that. Some people enjoy it. Some people are
Oh,
like,
that's
oh,
evil.
if you can't afford the property, then it's like okay, then you just can't afford it, and it's up to the next person to land on it, or whoever lands on it again. It just stays available. And I'm like,
Or what if you land on it and you just don't want it?
it goes up for auction, and also
What would
like
the base price be at that point then?
it starts at whatever the first bid is. Like same thing. Like the whenever you auction anything, it starts at whatever the first person to bid is. Like that, I will
Okay.
say like there's been like things I've done it the other way around too, where like I'll land on Boardwalk and or whatever property, and say my brother or whoever I'm playing with only has like X amount of dollars, and the property is twice that or whatever. I'll say I'll pass on it and put it up for auction. They'll start bidding. Just because you passed on it doesn't mean you can't still bid on it. So I'll bid up to whatever they have as the thing, and I will get the property for way less that way too.
Oh, wow.
See that those parts of the game are like from back in the original thing. Where like, yeah, this is how evil corporations screw people over and stuff. I'm like, oh, you can't afford all this kind of stuff. Well, I'm gonna come in with just more than you have to buy it out from you instead of paying the full price, kind of.
Okay.
So like the fact like much of the rules have stayed the same from the original thing, but it's just like they turned it into like, oh, this is a fun thing, and it's not really viewed as the critique of capitalism and all that kind of stuff it was supposed to be when the original person created it.
Okay. What do you think of the concept behind Clue? Like, for some reason, that game just popped into my head, and I'm just curious, what do you think of the concept behind it?
I think it was Professor Plum in the library with the candlestick. I'll admit it's been a very long time since I've played the actual game of Clue, but I remember enjoying the heck out of it as a kid. It was one of our favorite games that we would play also. And the concept, like, oh, it's your classic murder mystery kind of story slash game, and it was always fun to try and figure out who done it. Yeah, that's what it
Do
is.
you
It's
ever
like,
feel like there should have been more rooms, more characters, more possible options?
I mean, yeah, after doing it so many times, it gets kind of stale. So, like, you could create, or not necessarily you could, but like some people I know would create their own extra things, like oh, more characters and stuff. Like, it all still just like winds up playing out the same though. So it's just like I don't know. It was fun though. Have you ever done anything like that? Taking not necessarily a clue, but just like an established game and like after you've played it a bajillion times, make your own rules or add your own content to it?
Not me personally, but I have a couple friends who took Monopoly, I think checkers, and oh, what's that tower game with the planks that,
Jenga.
yeah, Jenga. And they
Jenga.
literally created a game that combined all these other games into one.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and I'm just like, that just sounds wild. Never played it myself, but hey, they came up with it. They did it for a couple weekends. So,
So, buttons on your face.
what about checkers? So simple,
King me.
yet complicated.
Yeah, checkers is a fun one. It's a good time waster. It was never my favorite game growing up, but yeah, I used to play it all the time when I was a kid.
Like, it's one of those easy games to teach to a kid.
Yeah, it's a simple game made for, learning to recognize patterns and stuff kind of a thing. Double, triple jump king me's. I can do all kinds of fancy stuff.
Yep, pretty much.
It teaches you about, like don't leave yourself open to get jumped or triple jumped or double jumped and all that kind of stuff.
Pretty much spatial awareness.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of, but my awareness of my brain is not working today.
Is it ever when we're recording?
Sometimes on the weekends.
We don't record on the weekends.
Oh well, that's your fault.
And I was very specific. I asked, does it ever work when we're recording?
This is some bullshit. Sorry, you just reminded me of something from a show I was watching.
So while still board game related,
Shoots and ladders.
we
Or
also
snakes
do a
and
lot.
ladders.
We also do stuff about digital games. How do you feel about how board games have been adapted into the video game world?
I like it. Like I say, I have Monopoly on my Xbox. I have the whole Hasbro thing. I have Risk, Boggle, Scrabble, all those kind of things. So like, I like the video game versions of them as well. It's a lot easier to set up and clean up and all that kind of stuff than pulling out the board. And
Right.
like I said, like it definitely like me and my friends used to play it over the phone. We were pioneers of turning it into a video game kind of thing. So,
Fair enough.
like it's cool, and like you can play these kind of games with people that aren't in the same room with you anymore. You can play with people across town, across state, on the other side of the world, kind of a thing. So like that's really cool
Right.
and interesting, and so like it broadens the player pool and all that kind of stuff, which is fun because with online capabilities, it makes it basically opens the world to you, which is really cool. And like I said, the Monopoly game I have on my Xbox, it does let you set up where you can play just the basic hardcore rules like I like to play, or you can add in the house rules like free parking and all that kind of stuff. Like there are options in these games nowadays that like with these really common and popular house rules that you can play by them in the video game version of them, which is really cool.
Oh wow,
So yeah,
that's neat.
yeah, it's neat. Like another one I will play online sometimes with some of my friends is Uno.
There you go.
And like yeah, they definitely have their core rules that a lot of people don't like because according to the core rules you can't stack draw twos and draw fours and all that kind of stuff. But
Wait,
have,
what? You can't? You aren't allowed to?
no, that's in the actual rules of Uno. You cannot do that.
I have never heard of someone not doing that.
Yeah, like I said, it's such a common house rule that that's the way almost everyone thinks you're supposed to play the game. And so in the video game version, I'm like, yeah, that's an option where you can add, like, yeah, you can do the stack those kinds of things. Like, so like I was saying, like a lot of the very common and popular house rules that a lot of people have played by are in all the video game versions that you can toggle them on or off. So, but
Oh
yeah,
wow.
but yeah, if you read the actual rules of Uno, I'm like, no, you can't. If someone plays a draw two, you have to. You can't put another draw two on it and make the other next person draw four. That's against the rules. You can't do that. Same thing with skips, reverses, any of those funny cards. Like you're not allowed to stack. Well, I guess technically you could with the reverse because it just reverses it to that person and they could play a reverse. But the skips and the things like that. So like if someone plays a skip, you get skipped. You don't get to, oh, I have a skip also and throw it down to skip the next person. Like that's against the rules. You can't play it that way. If you're playing by the actual rules written by Uno, which I've seen so many reels and whatever of people saying like Uno don't even know how to play their own game because this is the way everybody plays it.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, like
Oh man.
the Uno one that I have, like in particular, also has like special versions of Uno. Like there's a Rayman version or Rabbids version, and they have special cards that do other special kind of things besides just the draw forward and stuff. So like, it's pretty cool. You get to unlock the different like there's even you might be interested in Assassin's Creed version on it. Like I don't have that one because it costs extra to pay for that it's basically the whole DLC thing we were talking about in one of our earlier episodes. So like I haven't paid for that because I'm not the hugest Assassin's Creed fan and I'm always broke. So, but there is an Assassin's Creed version of Uno that I have the ability to access to on my computer if I want to pay to unlock it.
Cool.
Like so I don't know what any of the special rules for that one are, but like it's gonna have some kind of it's specifically Assassin's Creed Valhalla also, which
Oh.
so like I
Okay.
imagine one of the cards has something to do with raids and all this kind of stuff.
Sh-
I would just imagine from just
Valhalla?
the little bit I've watched you play, like I'll admit like that's the most I've ever seen of Valhalla is when I joined your stream sometimes and I've seen you playing it before. Like I never really I stopped paying attention to Assassin's Creed. I know you don't like me, but after 3, like I think I've played a little bit of Black Flag before, which I know is one of your favorite ones, but I never got into it. So like I don't think I own that one.
Not that, well, I'm not confirming it, but I'm also not going to deny it. There's a possibility they are doing a remake of Black Flag.
Yes, I've seen the stories and the rumors myself, but I didn't want to bring
I'm
it up
not holding
to
my
you.
breath.
Yeah, it's like I didn't want to bring it up to you because like I don't want you to get excited for something that may or may not come to fruition, kind of like that.
I am very nervous about them doing it.
Yeah, like sometimes remakes come out good, sometimes they screw things up. I would
Yep.
much rather a lot of the time on some of these older games prefer just a remaster than a remake. Like yeah, just update it to the current gen graphic capabilities and like obviously some things would have to be changed because like the controllers are different than they used to be.
Yeah.
Because like some of the old OG original Xbox games, they don't have the black and white buttons anymore, but they basically just become the bumper buttons on the thing right above the
Yeah, I
triggers.
never
So,
had a game that required those buttons. Like, I was always so confused by them.
oh, you never played Grand Theft Auto then?
No, I didn't.
Oh, Grand Theft Auto. Like I don't know what they did, but I think it was just like a quick switch between your weapons or whatever instead of pulling up the radio
Gotcha.
menu kind of a thing. But so like no, they're not really necessarily required, but they did things like I remember they were used in Morrowind too. I don't remember exactly what they were used for because it's been forever since I played it on the OG Xbox.
Right. But yeah, getting back to
Board games.
board games that are also digital games, I remember back on the Sega Genesis having a version of Battleship.
Oh yeah, that's another one that I have on my Xbox. Thanks for reminding me.
Like the old school Battleship game was really, really interesting. You could either play it as if it was the legit physical Battleship game, or I wouldn't even call it a campaign, but it sort of was. It was almost like a prototype of an open world game where you travel around and you take out the different ships and they could move and take you out, or and it was all turn based.
Speaking of Battleship, to this day I refuse to play my mother in that game
Why?
because she cheats.
Ew.
Yeah, there was this one time we were playing, and every time I guessed, she was saying miss. Even when I hit her ship, she would say miss.
Uh and now what life lesson was she trying to teach you there?
To not trust my mother and never play Battleship with her again, because ever since that day, I'm like, I will not play Battleship with you anymore. Like, she wasn't trying to teach me a lesson. She was just trying to be funny and like laughing about it to herself. Like, because it was definitely frustrating me because I got down to like going in like a grid, like searching for like, there's no way I haven't hit her big ship yet by the possibilities of how it could be laid out, Like, it was pissing me off. And when I finally figured out what she was doing, she started cackling, laughing so hard, thinking it was the most hilarious thing in the world. And ever since then, man, this must have been probably at least 20 years ago by now. I'm like, I will not play Battleship with you anymore.
Wow.
Like, it's the principle of the thing. Like, yeah, we used to have fun playing this, and then you went and pulled something like that.
Wow. Ooh, talk about fun games that can also be very frustrating. Block Us.
Block Us. I don't think I know that one.
You don't know Block Us?
No, I don't know Block Us.
Oh my god.
I know Operation.
Well, there. No. Okay, so basic version of it is you have a board that has squares, okay?
Uh-huh.
So it's a legit three-dimensional grid with depth to it where your pieces fit into, okay?
Vertical or
You have
horizontal?
four quadrants. Each quadrant is for a different color. You can play 2-player or up to 4 players, okay? Each one of them takes a color. You have a set number of pieces that you have to play. And the person who has the most tiles on their pieces left at the end of the game loses.
Tetris.
You're trying to have the least number of tiled spaces left. And everyone has the same set of pieces to play, but different colors.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now on Google.
So that game is also really interesting. And then they have another version of it that's a hexagon where you're playing with triangular shaped pieces. And that is a far more complicated version.
Blockus Trigon. Yeah.
Like, there's one person who I taught, or my family taught the basic version of Blockus to, and that person got really good at that, right? We then introduced the triangles version, and now that person fears the triangles. Like, that's an inside joke for us, so I'm not going to name names, but yeah.
You know who you are.
Oh, man. And we play fun at it every so often, and it is a fun game. It is a legitimately fun game. Difficult, yes, but fun. Like, I feel like you should get this game and introduce it to your Friday night friend group.
Can you play with more than 4 people?
You can do it as teams.
Teams
or you
suck.
could have multiple
argument.
Or you could have multiple games going at the same time. Like, if you have one that's the squares and one that's triangles, you know, you could all be at the same table and be playing both versions. So, because there's only 4 colors, so really there's only 4 people who could play. Or another game that involves really good luck. Did you ever play the game Sequence?
Yeah, we play Sequence sometimes.
That was another really fun one. Word of advice: do not play that game in a car.
No, probably not.
Done that on a couple road trips. Didn't end very well.
No, I don't see very many board games playing well in a car.
Some.
That's why I said very many. I didn't say it was impossible. And
you really can't talk today.
Oh, I say impossible wrong on purpose. That's how I say it sometimes.
So, yeah, fun games.
Fun games. Fast Times at Ridgemont High. So,
any other thoughts on any final thoughts on board games?
They're not boring. Did you ever play Aggravation?
No.
It's an aggravating game, that's for sure.
I kind of figured that by the name of it.
It's a great game though. It's a board game that you play with I guess technically marbles, but just little round balls, and you need to get them from. It's kind of like Sorry, you need to get them out of your home and go around the board and get them up into your base, kind of a thing.
Right.
And like if someone else takes their piece and it lands on yours, it knocks your piece back to home. So it's basically like a version of Sorry, kind of, but
okay.
And it's like I said, it's played with little balls, so the board, like all the places you can land on, have like little holes drilled into it, so like to hold the balls from rolling around everywhere. But
interesting.
But it's like Sorry, but it's like you don't go around in a straight square. Like
right.
You start in like each thing has like a little rectangle sticking out, and there's like a circle in the middle. And you need a 6 or 1 to get out of your base, and then you can move. And if you go up to the inner circle, if you land directly on the outside ring coming up from your thing, you can then choose to either go back on the next one, or if you're, like I said, you're in that circle, you can go over to the next thing over and around and take a shortcut around the inner circle to get back down. And then if you could also, like, there's one hole in the very center, so if you get up and you land in that center hole, you then have to roll a 1, I believe, to get out of it, and you can then like take a super shortcut to go just 1 up and then 1 back down and into your thing. Or if someone's getting close to their thing and you're in that hole and you get out, you can get out and chase them down to stop them from going into their base or whatever kind of a thing, and that's
Oh,
why
cool.
it's called aggravation, because you're purposely trying to stop other people from getting into
Yeah.
their thing, and it's aggravating sometimes when they're like, oh, you're so close to getting your guy in, and then some asshole comes by and knocks you all the way back, so you got to start all the way over and go all the way around the board again.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a great fun game. Like, I've played that one since I was a kid also, but
Sounds like fun.
yeah.
Well, that is all the time we have for today. So, once again, thank you, David.
Thank you, Tim,
Good discussion.
as always.
And yeah, we definitely can do tabletop games, we can do card games in other episodes. And everyone, stay tuned because next week we're going to have a very, very special guest with us. So, good little preview of that would be someone David and I have known for a few years now who we feel can contribute a lot to the discussion about gaming in general, as well as video games.
Yep.
So stay tuned and enjoy.
Hasta luego.
Oh, and don't forget, like, subscribe, share, ring that bell.
And comment. We need some interaction.
Indeed.
Ring my bell. Ring my bell.